Welcome to another episode of the Flag Stays Down podcast. Nope, I already lost it. I don't have my script in front of me.
Do it again.
Bring it back
from the top.
Siemi baki yoko oyo samina mina Edward Mende samina mina sam sadakte. He comes from Senegal.
And I think going out and get Saul was the top transfer of the market for Chelsea.
Chesney could have been in the shower smoking a cigarette like he was at Arsenal, and we still would not have scored.
My rants have been fueled by Scott. Don't get it twisted.
Big Rom. Man, fuck you.
In Roman we trust, right?
You and me are going to have a battle royale about Jorginho and diving.
The flag stays down!
Welcome to the Flag Stays Down podcast. Follow us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. Please subscribe, rate, and review. And we are on Twitch. Again, we're on a streak here, boys. So you can always catch us whenever we pod on Twitch. Just search at Flag Down Pod. Tonight you got me, Andy, at Comiskey North. Boys, I like I said, I don't have my script, so I don't have any descriptors for you. We got Parker at DJ Parkour, and you got Matt at Matusli. Boys, how you doing?
It's a bit of a recovery episode for all of us, Colin. It's all good, man. You're on the road. We had a fun weekend getting the gang back together. So, yeah, man. Disappointing Chelsea week, but fun to always see you guys. And so appreciate you coming up to the great up north in Minnesota and have a couple drinks, play some FIFA, play some Circle of Death, which is always a fun college throwback, and a little ride the bus. And then I was up for the Arsenal game, but you boys slept in a little bit. So Matt's shaking his head no, and no, it's all good. We were still able to watch most of it, and all in all, a fun weekend. So appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a good time this weekend. We take the Chelsea game out of it, and it was damn near perfect. I know that there was a question in Twitch to Parker. I believe that was your brother. One C Gross. Yes, breakfast was cooked and it was delicious. So I'm Collins. I'm going to speak on your behalf, but Parks, we appreciate you and your wife's hospitality over the weekend. Just good time, just always catching up and just hanging out and doing what we do, which is acting like we're still in college for a weekend and forget about the real world for a while. So it was a good time.
Yeah, and we even forgot about the weekend for a while too.
Yeah.
Parker, I do have to say though, to answer the question, Parker did make breakfast. It was delicious. But that pork shoulder, was it? Oh, A1, fantastic. Highly recommend it.
I whipped up some mashed potatoes tonight, and so we had you got to find fun, creative ways to keep using the pork, otherwise it comes the same old thing. And so we had mashed potato pork bowls for dinner tonight. So it's good stuff.
Well, I feel like I should fill you guys in on my week here. I get to play with explosives this week for work, which is very fun. Tomorrow I get to don the full what's that movie about the guy who defuses the bombs in Iraq? He's wearing that giant suit. Yeah, I get to wear that tomorrow, so that's going to be a thriller. Definitely more exciting than Chelsea.
Just wash your ankles. That's all I ask.
They'll be covered in Kevlar. It's okay.
Oh no, I'm just talking about you walking.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, before we get into tonight's pod, as we do every week, let's cheers with our Mob Craft beer to the player, whose number is this episode. We're on lucky number 13. Boy, what a fitting number for the weekend that was. So here are your choices, boys. Got Willie Gallis, Michael Ballack. Matt wants me to throw out Marcus Bettinelli. That's automatic no.
How dare you?
You got Thibaut Courtois, Victor Moses. Parker, who are you taking?
I mean, the most formidable during the time that I spent the most time watching would have been Thibaut, but I don't know if I can vote for that. So I'll go with the German and Michael Ballack.
I will also go with Michael Ballack. When I kind of first started watching, I believe it was the 2004 2008 World Cup, but Germany just had a stacked team, and just watching him play, I loved his game, everything that he did. He was a badass. Like, I was big fan. Ballack for me.
Just a fun fact, there was not a World Cup in either of those years.
You know what I'm trying to say. It was sometime in high school.
I'm going to go against the grain here. I'm going to go
ballparking. I think I was in high school for 4 years.
Ish.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go against the grain. I'm going to go Willie Gallis. I've said it many times on this pod and many times to you guys that the French national team was my first love, and he was the anchor of that defense. And so he was one of the reasons why I flipped the channel and turned Chelsea on. He was a beast of a defender. You think of Rudiger, Gallis was on another level. So, but I'll concede. We'll go democracy rules here. We'll go Michael Ballack. So, boys, what are we cheersing tonight?
I'm drinking Mobcraft Amber. And Collins, you talked about the pork. It was fun to finally get my 6-packs in the door. So thank you for being the delivery guy. And we had a couple Mobcraft Ambers with the pork. It went really well. It's robust, copper hue, malt forward, backbone, balanced hops. It's a really nice drinker. And I really enjoyed it. So it was fun to finally get to enjoy the hype with you boys. This was my first couple of Mobcrafts that I've had in person now, and it was really great. So appreciate Mobcraft hooking us up and fueling a lot of the fun that we had with FIFA over the weekend. So cheers to that.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
All right, well, Mobcraft Amber, Parker, like you said, it's one of their staples. It is a great beer that goes with barbecue. It's just a standard amber ale. It's also got that nice copper hue. It's very malty. It's got a little bit of that hop bitterness, but overall, solid drinker. Big fan. So once again, shout out to Mobcraft for supplying us with the cheers there. All right, well, on tonight's episode, covered 2 matches this week, just as we do every week at this point. We had the 2-1 win at home against Zagreb. We already sealed first place, but we'll put a little cherry on top of that. And then there was the 1-0 loss against Arsenal on Sunday, early one. It's kind of a hodgepodge on the week, is what I'll say. But we'll start with the Zagreb match. There was a lot of questions around Graham Potter's selection for that one. Again, considering we already had first place locked up, he decided to throw up the first team for the most part in order to kind of build confidence going into the Arsenal match. And that was a major talking point, is that lineup against Zagreb. And, we go down early, 1-0, I believe it was in the 8th minute, and then come back, score 2 unanswered, and had plenty of chances in that one. But what are your guys' impressions of that match?
I mean, it was good. I mean, comparatively speaking, it was good. We didn't start off great. And I think that's kind of what we've been. I feel like with us, we're either starting on the front foot or we're giving up a very quick and kind of bullshit counterattack goal. There's like really no happy medium. Like, it was a well taken goal. I thought that Zagreb, they definitely earned it, but the fact that we were able to come back so quick, you like to see that. We'll get into this later, but the fact that we had something of an attack show up, not saying much, but something of an attack that could actually finish off a goal. It was good to see. As far as the lineup, I mean, yeah, what is our first team at this point anymore? I kind of feel like we are the Green Bay Packers right now of the Premier League, because we have everybody just kind of either going out injured. We just have kind of random pieces fitting in wherever we can fit them out there. And it's not like fun to watch. I guess that's kind of how I'll put it right now. Like, we expect disappointment at this point, and that's not the way it should be. Granted, we do have injuries that are, I think hindering what we can be and what we want to do. But I don't know. It doesn't seem like we're in the same boat that we used to be, where we expect to win. Now, at least the way that I look at it, and you guys can back me on this, every time that we send out, like when we talk in our group chat, I'm usually the pessimist of the group. You guys are saying 3-0, 4-1. I'm usually 2-1, and it's a Chelsea loss. Like, that's just the way that I kind of look at it. Like, I don't have a lot of optimism. Like, I want to have it, but I haven't seen anything inspiring enough for me to kind of switch my mind on that. We know that all the problems that we have in attack, we have a lot of opportunities. Doesn't mean a damn thing if you can't put them away. And at this point, like, I would be thrilled with a 1-0 victory at this point. Like, if we can get one, then I'll be happy. But it just doesn't seem like that right now.
The Zagreb game for me was sort of a lose-lose position for us. I mean, if we go out and we hammer them and we win, it doesn't mean much. I mean, literally, and this is grasping for straws, the only thing that we were technically playing for was a coefficient in the Champions League for future draws and future kind of placements. So, I mean, if that's really all that was going on, considering it's a condensed schedule in a wonky World Cup year, I would have loved to see a lot of the youth. I would have loved to see more people from the academy get a try at first team and just try some stuff that we haven't been able to, and that we really kind of desperately need. I mean, a lot of our players need to rest, and like Kova can't play every match, even though we would all love him to. And Matt, you said we were dealing with a lot of injuries, and yeah, our guys need a bit of a break. So it would have been nice to, because I don't know what we win from it. I mean, sure, some continuity going into Arsenal, maybe, but I don't think that's the most necessary thing at this stage. We've been training together, playing together week in, week out. I just think, like, if you're worried about Mason Mount's mojo that much, like, then something else is wrong in that situation. It's not, that. So if we win, it doesn't mean anything. If we lose, everyone's going to the internet and kind of claiming for Potter's head, which seems to be the case anyway, but it's never kind of good enough. So we were in like this weird lose-lose situation from that match anyway. And so I don't put too much stock into it, but it sucks that, we sort of waste a win on a meh moment. And there were some highlights in that match, especially with Zakaria playing and coming in and doing some good things, but it's all for naught because we look bad against Arsenal. And then a player who comes in, gets his first minutes of the season and has a man of the match type performance, doesn't play against Arsenal. So I guess what are we figuring out? And also we have 2 more matches and then we're on break for a couple of weeks. So the gelling and continuity aspect of it doesn't make a ton of sense to me. So I don't mean to throw salt on the win, but it doesn't mean a lot. It was a meaningless match. We had first place locked up, not even just like qualification. we had first place locked up because we had AC Milan on the tiebreaker because we beat them twice head to head. So that's where I was a little bit disappointed in who I saw out there, and then from there it doesn't really matter actually.
Yeah, the lineup honestly made me mad when I saw it come out. Parker, just like you were mentioning, we've got a very congested schedule. Like, this game doesn't mean anything. Like, why not give some guys a break? You're having problems signing your U21s, your PL2 players to major deals. Charlie Webster, Jude Soutson-Bell, both rumored to go to Manchester City. This would have been a perfect opportunity to give them some playing time. But you look at who's out there, and it's guys who have played just about every match over the last 3-4 weeks. Aubameyang, Sterling, Havertz, Mount, Trev, Jorginho to an extent. It's these guys look, and I think it showed especially in the Arsenal match, not only physically fatigued, but they look mentally fatigued. You go back to, this dates back all the way to the condensed schedule when COVID restrictions were lifted. Then all of a sudden you had the European tournaments being played. You had that deep stretch into the Champions League. These guys have all played a lot of matches over the last 2 years. Give these guys a breather. I understand wanting to build continuity and all that, but this is also a perfect time to give a match to Pulisic or to Ziyech, to a couple of the academy guys who had been mentioned, to Broja, Gallagher, Loftus-Cheek. Marcus Bettinelli could have played in this one. But the goal that was conceded early, I think, was very much mental fatigue. Trev didn't know where he was on the pitch. Koulibaly didn't know where he was on the pitch. It was sloppy. But Parker, you did mention Denis Zakaria, and yeah, man of the match easily in that one. And just the change up of having a physical number 6 who can go box to box if necessary, who can body guys, kind of like what we saw out of Ruben Loftus-Cheek in flashes last season. Just bouncing off of guys, nicking the ball off guys. He looked really good in that match, and it kind of asks the question, well, why isn't he playing more?
We talked about that, and it has to be something, right? If he was doing this every single day in training, then there's no logical reason why he wasn't. There's got to be some reason, but what I'm really curious, and we talked about this a lot last year when we would see Harvey Vale come up for a game and show out, and kind of ball up and play really well, and then we wouldn't see him again for 4 months, and it's well, then why? If you're gonna give someone a chance and then they take the chance, you don't give them another shot, then what the hell are we doing here? That makes sense. So I think the go forward is going to be the most important with him. Does he get himself some regular minutes, especially considering we've got some injuries in the midfield, and we need a lot of help in the midfield too. So that's going to be really telling to me is not looking back, but looking forward.
I would have loved to have seen a combo of Chumbawamba and Zakaria. I would have absolutely loved to seen it. I think that would have been a perfect game for both of them. I don't think Chuameka was available that game, or he wasn't on the bench. But I still would have liked to see that combination. You have 2 young, hungry midfielders, and then you would have Jorginho sitting back. Then you give Kova a break. You give RLC a bit of a break because he has been playing a lot. RLC is playing a lot more than he has in the past. I would have liked to have seen that combination. Collins just as a kind of fuck you point. Chills was man of the match on WhoScored.com, not Zakaria. So just want to call that out there for legitimacy. Parker, I know that you appreciate that. But anyways, I do agree. I think some youth would have been fun. I did see my boy Lewis Hall on the bench for the Arsenal game. My boy, I've been calling for him since he had an outstanding performance in his one match last season where he was lights out and then nothing. It's like, well, we kind of need help at those spots now, right? Because Chills is done for most of the season. Reese is still out for probably another month and a half. Like, you need help back there. Dave's not going to be able to play every single game. RLC is a makeshift right back at best. You need help. And, we've talked about this. We've seen what it can do when you have to go to the academy. We all remember the transfer ban under Frank. You have to let the boys play. Like, you have to look internally and see, all right, what do we have? These boys might be ready. They might not be ready, but you don't know until you try it. And at this point, you really don't have that much to lose. Premier League is out of the question. Champions League, you're looking to get past Dortmund, which I think we got a favorable draw in that regard for the first time in what seems like a long time. You have to let them play and then figure out what are the important matches. Again, I think Premier League is going to be its own thing, but Champions League and then, FA Cup, Carabao, all those other competitions, I think that's what you have to look forward to. Premier League, you just kind of take that and play it, but I don't know. It's a very tough spot to be in right now, especially, this early in the season, obviously with the World Cup cutting right in the middle of the season. I don't know, fortunately or unfortunately, half our team is out of it. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, mainly because of the reasons why they're out, but who knows? It might be a blessing in disguise.
And I'm glad you brought up Lewis Hall. I can't think of the name of the competition, but it's the Champions League for the U23s. But anyways, Chelsea hasn't done great in that this year, but Lewis Hall has consistently put in decent performances there. In terms of the PL2, Chelsea's doing really well there. Lewis Hall is one of the guys balling out there, as well as Cesare Cassette, who we just signed from Inter Milan. He's also showing out. Why not give these guys a trot out, especially in that meaningless game? And Matt, like you said, with things kind of going off the rails here, what's the worst that's going to happen?
Yeah, what we have right now is not working, and I understand not everybody is a Potter guy, right? We always talk about our managers inherit teams, right? They aren't given enough runway to build their own teams. However, Potter's had a little bit of time. He's had a little bit of time, right? He signed Cucurella, who had a very good start to the season. And yes, Collins, I know that he's playing out of position as that left center back, but he's consistently being the first person subbed off in order to allow for us to move to a back four, which that doesn't inspire a lot of confidence, especially considering the fact that Cucurella played under Graham Potter at Brighton, and Cucurella was player of the season last year for Brighton. If he's going to be the first person taken off, that's not a good look. And I don't think Cucurella is in great form right now. And I said it earlier, I still think Chills is the number one, and it came to be that Chills, at least in the last, I would say probably 3 weeks to a month, has been, I would say, preferred as a left back, not as a left center back, but as a left back to Cucurella. And now, you bring in the question, well, you signed him for all that money, and now he's, barely playing. He's not in good form. He's the first person subbed off, blah, blah, blah. It's not a good look. Obviously, Fofana's out. That's an issue. Trev had a good run. for a while when forgot who went down, but somebody went down with something. But he came in. Sorry, what's that?
Koulibaly.
Yeah, Koulibaly went down. Trev had to come in, and he looked good for a while. He looked consistent. He looked sound, and now he's kind of hitting a bad run. But that's because he has to play every single match, right? And now you're trying to save Dave a little bit. He's obviously up there in age, but you don't have really a secondary or a third right back to fill that gap so that Dave can just play right back and you have somebody else who can take over for other matches. You have to throw a midfielder in to play a right back, right wing back, blah, blah, blah. We just have so many moving parts right now, and we're trying to make it work. And it seems like everything that we're trying is not working. The only thing we haven't tried is calling on the youth and seeing what they can do. And I think that's probably what we need is give them a shot out. Can't be any worse than what we're doing right now.
So talking about being worse than we are right now, we did have that 1-0 loss at Arsenal, where we mustered a whole of 2 shots. By far, I would say one of our worst performances of the season, rivaling the Brighton match. And one of the, I don't want to call him a scapegoat because I think he legitimately is to blame for a lot of that match, is Kai Havertz. You can look at the goal we conceded on the corner. What is he doing there? I think is a great question. But I want to read you guys a quote from former Chelsea man Frank Leboeuf in regards to Kai Havertz. He says, quote, "I want to know what Kai Havertz is doing offensively. He made 1 cross. He's an international player, but it ended up at the far post. Defensively for the corner kick, when Chelsea conceded the goal, Kai Havertz is the guy who has to kick the ball away. He missed the ball by about 5 inches. That's not possible. We all know Kai Havertz has talent, but what's wrong with him in his head? Like many other players." Are you guys as low on Kai Havertz as Frank is?
Well, it's hard to be high on him these days. What's tough with him is every once in a while he decides to show his quality, and he did that still recently. It was about a week and a half ago where he had that banger of a goal. So he still knows what he's doing, but I don't know if it's a lack of like motivation. I don't know if it's a lack of cohesion. If he's just upset, like there's something going on with this team, and I don't fully understand the why, but he looks not great on the ball, and he looks just completely out of confidence. A player of his caliber should be able to run at people, to take people on, to find space, to be able to create a yard of space, and do all of the things that you expect those types of players should do. And then all else, get a ball on target. It's like the simple stuff that I'm even asking and holding him to. I'm not asking for worldies every week. It's just, do the basics, do the blocking and tackling, and just do the right stuff and be in the right positions. I love players that score not flashy goals. Diego Costa was one of my favorite players to play for Chelsea. Most of his goals were not flashy. They're tap-ins, they're headers, they're right spot, right time goals, they're garbage goals, they're cleanup goals. Collins, you made that stat when Kai had that goal about that was his first goal out of the box. And my first thought was, I don't remember ever Diego Costa having one out of the box. It didn't bother me because he scored goals. It doesn't matter how, it's just, you got to get them in. And Kai just doesn't do that, man. He just doesn't have that killer instinct for the goal, at least in a Chelsea shirt. I can't understand why, but it's really hard to defend him. We've gone through the ups and downs. Obviously, he scored the Man City goal in the Champions League final. He'll always be remembered for that, but it has to be more consistent than just that. It has to be more regular. It's got to be a higher number. Unfortunately, at Chelsea, it's not good enough.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm very torn on Kai. Sometimes I think he has a great game. Other times I lump him in with what we see out of Ziyech, at least this season. Why are you playing? It's such a love-hate thing right now. He does have his moments of brilliance. Like, we've seen it, we know what he can do. And the fact that even after all this time, he still is not able to be consistent. I don't understand it. He went from Tuchel to Graham Potter. Their systems really haven't changed a whole lot. If you look at it comparatively, their systems have not really changed a lot. Yes, argument could be made, what is Kai's best position? You could say that about 90% of our fucking team at this point. What is their best position? The only player that has a best position right now is Thiago Silva. And that's at center back. That's it. And then you throw in Kepa and Mendy. Yeah, I know where you're going, Parks. I saw the look. Like, honestly, throw Mendy in the fucking attack. He can't distribute worse shit, but hell, at least he's a tall body. Get him up there. His decision making isn't that much worse than Kai's. So, like, it's just really weird how Kai has been in this false nine-ish position for 2 years. We've seen him thrive in it. We've also seen him be shit in it. And I believe in the Arsenal game, if I'm looking at the lineup correctly, he was playing behind Aubameyang, which to most people, that is his natural position. He would be kind of that in behind type player, not necessarily a straight up attacker.
Yeah, he was a number 10.
Yeah. So, like, and clearly he did not play well. From everything that I've seen and everything, he did not play well at all. So then what is his best position? If he's not able to contribute in the number 9, having him play as a number 10 apparently did not work out. He's not great on the wings. I don't know where you put him. And I think he's just out there because he needs to be out there. At which point I throw out the argument, put Broya out there. Let him go do something. Run 2 up top, like, do what you got to do. Because at this point, we don't know where goals are going to come from. Probably, and since we don't have Reece James, we definitely don't know where the goals are going to come from. It's just a clusterfuck right now. And I don't know what needs to change. There's almost too many things that we can say need to change, but that's an issue. If there's a whole laundry list of stuff, something's got to happen, and I don't know that we're seeing it right now.
So I don't necessarily know if this is a conspiracy theory. I like to think it more as connecting the dots. It was about 3-4 weeks ago. All of a sudden, you started to see some smoke around. Oh, such and such team is interested in Kai Havertz. Oh, Real Madrid's interested. Barca's interested. Bayern Munich's interested. What we have seen from Chelsea over the last couple of years is that where there's smoke, there's usually fire. And who does that benefit, that information getting out? It doesn't benefit Bayern, doesn't benefit Real Madrid, doesn't benefit Barca, sure as hell doesn't benefit Chelsea. That's coming from the player and the player's agents. I think Kai has lost interest at Chelsea. We've seen him tear it up for the German national team. Seems to score in just about every match he plays there. And yeah, you can make the argument, you're not playing the same competition on the international level. But he's still putting shots on goal. He's still getting into space. He's still running at people. I've seen a lot of reports this week specifically already that this locker room is disjointed. That there are, Kovacic is exploring his options, Mendy's exploring his options, Jorginho only wants to stay if we're going to double his salary, and N'Golo Kante wants 4 years. there's reports that, the guys pretty much only see each other in the locker room. None of this team really hangs out outside of matches and training. But I mean, that's what you see out of good teams, is that these guys fight for each other. They are a family. And so going back to Kai specifically, I think he's angling for a move, forcing Chelsea's hand, deliberately or undeliberately. I think he's kind of checked out, so to speak.
I would be fine if Kai went to Real Madrid and pulled an Eden Hazard and just completely shit the bed. I would be perfectly okay with that.
I would do a swap deal for those two right now.
You're going to need more than Eden Hazard, personally. Otherwise, Real Madrid's going to walk away from that. Like, yes, please, because Kai has a lot more time on his side. However, I do see your point behind that. The other thing that I just kind of wanted to throw out is, and I'm going to use Timo as an example, and I'm only saying this because he was a former Chelsea player and he went back to where he was comfortable. He went back to Leipzig and he is tearing shit up over there. Like, a lot of these German players, they go where they're comfortable. They want to stay where they are comfortable. And Colin, I'm sure that you have names to provide me, but like, you look at the amount of German players that come into the Premier League and not a ton of them work out. And I'm not saying that they played in Germany for a year or two. Like, I'm not saying Erling Haaland, because he is his own fucking mythical being that he is. But like, you don't see a ton of success with German players making a move to the Premier League. They're comfortable where they are. They can tear stuff up where they are, which is fine. Again, it's a different animal, and I will keep saying this time and time again. How many big name players, regardless of what their nationality is, how many times have we seen big players come over and be like, yep, they're going to be the next big thing? And how many times do they just absolutely flop? More times than they succeed. I would, lowballing it, I would say 60-40. 60% of the time they probably flop, 40% they probably succeed. I think I'm being a little bit conservative on that number, but I'm just saying it's different. And they tried. I kind of worked, but he's just not comfortable. And even him and Timo have said, yeah, it's a lot easier playing with the German national team. Well, no shit. Like, the German national team is better than Chelsea at this point right now. It's what they're comfortable with. It's what they know. They are just comfortable in their own skin, and whatever they need to do, that's where they're going to thrive. They just haven't really made their mark on Chelsea as the price tag and the hype would have said otherwise.
Well, speaking of the German national team, Oktoberfest is over, but that doesn't mean that your Mobtoberfest has to be over. If you go into either one of Mobcraft's tap rooms right now, you can go in and get 24 Mobtoberfest beers for $24. That's $1 a beer. That's a steal. I might go do that when I get back to Milwaukee. Guys, I know we drank a lot of that beer this weekend. It is a smooth drinker.
It is very good.
But if that's not your cup of German tea, Mobcraft did just announce the winner of the latest crowdsourced beer. And just as a reminder, you can always submit any beer idea you have to them at mobcraft.com. But the new one being made is called the Buzzy Nightcap Porter. And does it sound delicious. It's a horchata-inspired porter. It's got a creamy profile, blends cocoa nibs. It's got a little bit of coffee roast in it and a little bit of cinnamon. sounds like the ultimate nightcap to me, boys.
Sounds like I need 12 for the Christmas season, because that's like a very fun evening. It's cold outside and curl up by a fire kind of a beer.
It definitely sounds like my kind of beer. You boys know how much I love my stouts and porters over the winter. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be picking up some of that. Although around the holidays, Collins, is there anything else that that the three of us have that we're excited about?
So, and you know, we got the Mobcraft Advent calendars.
Yes.
Hashtag cheers to 24 beers. Those are only gonna be available for a couple more weeks. And so I believe there's only 7,500 of them made. So, you know, if you're interested in joining us in cheersing to 24 beers, you got to go hit up your local liquor store, go hit up Mobcraft and pick up that Advent calendar. Drink along with us.
All about it. I have to go pick up mine this week as a fun fact. So Collins, when you get back in town, let me know and we can go pick up my Advent calendar and we can try the new beer.
I'm in. All right, let's get back to some Chelsea here. Where do we go from here? So let me set the stage this way. We made our preseason picks, and Matt, I hate having to say this every week, but again, props to you for saying we're going to struggle to get into Champions League spots, because that sure as hell is going to happen. We're now in 7th, I believe, last time I looked, and things are not looking good. We've got City coming up in the Carabao Cup this week, Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League, and then, you know, whoever we get in the FA Cup. What is a realistic expectation now, 1/3 of the way through the season? What do you think? Where do you think we finish?
I would have thought Collins.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Oh man, I'd say the Conference League has to be minimum, but I don't even think that's a league-based position. Like, I'm pretty sure you have to win the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup to qualify for that. So I don't think we're playing in Europe next year. And I don't want that to be the expectation, but I think that's probably the most realistic scenario. I don't think we win the Carabao Cup. I think we get knocked out this week, probably 4-0 to City. FA Cup, we'll probably lose out in the quarters. Honestly, we'll be lucky to get past Dortmund. I think Jude Bellingham's probably going to score a couple sizzlers against us. And then what do you do in the league? Newcastle looks legit. Brighton seemingly hasn't missed a beat. And then you've got Spurs, Liverpool. I don't know. I still don't really know what to make of them. But Arsenal doesn't look like they're going to give up their grasp on the title or top 4. I think it's going to be a struggle the rest of the year. So I'd say probably 7th. And I don't think that's going to fly with a lot of the fan base.
7th would be a nightmare, I feel. You know, it's everyone talks about a leash and everyone talks about time and whatnot, but 7th for a Chelsea fan is unacceptable. I mean, let's just call it what it is. So it's going to be a tough one. Collins, I disagree with you. I think somehow miraculously we're going to beat City, and then we'll probably lose to someone else in the League Cup, but we'll probably beat City. They'll be happy to be out of the cup, and then, you know, they'll go on to do City things, and then Chelsea will go on to squander it and not make anything of it. But it seems to always be the case. But it's going to be a dogfight in the league. FA Cup is going to be a complete toss-up. I think where we're going to have our most success on a relative basis is going to be the Champions League. I could see us going on a run. I know Tuchel was always kind of the master of the head-to-head sort of managing for, so I'm excited to see how Potter kind of approaches it. But I think our team is built for some of those one-game matches where we're can put a lot of our focus towards it, and we'll see. And I say this with knowing that it's not super likely that we go far in the Champions League, but with where I'm most optimistic is where we could do some good is to make it to like top 4 of the Champions League. So I know we're a long ways away from that, but cracking into the top 4 of the league seems harder to do than that. Gosh, I hope we are top 6 in the league. It's going to be a really tough couple of months if we're not. It's just going to be a lot of missed chances, missed opportunities, and lost games and lost points. So for all of our sake, I hope that we're not in that kind of conversation.
I am very torn with the next comment that I'm going to say, especially after what I watched last night. I can't wait for the World Cup. I want the break. We need it badly. However, I can't fully stand behind the World Cup. And Parker, I know you're very torn on that whole thing. I don't know if you watched the E60 on it last night. Very good, very empowering. It's tough watch. I will say that, but from that standpoint, things were in a better place than they were. But I think that this team needs a break. We need just a reset. And again, with the injuries that we've had, they're not like small name injuries. It's not like, oh, well, we lost like our, fourth center mid. Like, okay, probably didn't play that much, whatever. Like, not a big deal. No, these are like stars. Not just on our team, but at a global level. Like, these are like stars. I really hope that it's a good time for them to reset. I know a decent amount of them are still going to be going, but I just hope that they get enough time to just, kind of like we all are with work. Get to the weekend, you try and hit that reset button and get back at it again. I think that's what this team is looking for. And I think in our situation right now, as it stands strictly for Chelsea, it's probably one of the better things that could happen for this year is the fact that we have a World Cup in the middle of the Premier League season. We just need some sort of a reset. We need them to focus on something else that is not Chelsea, and then come back hopefully with a renewed attitude and desire to do better. As far as where we finish, again, I still think top 6 is tolerable. I wouldn't say it's good. It's tolerable because we do have obviously new blood at the top of the table. We've seen the decline of Liverpool. We watched the Man City game this weekend and they got absolutely saved by VAR again. And I could see a VAR decision going City's way and fucking us over in a 1-0 defeat and stuff like that. I agree, though. I do think that our best chance is the Champions League. And I think the further that we get there, the better off that the team is going to be. I've never been big on the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup, but I mean, knowing us this season, we could probably lose to fucking Wrexham at this point. So, I mean, who the hell knows?
So what's the biggest change that needs to happen? During the World Cup break, after the World Cup break, I feel like the next 2 matches here are kind of irrelevant at this point, City and Newcastle. So how do you start the second half of this season on a positive note? What kind of changes do you make? What's your number 1 priority?
Honestly, this is going to sound like a cop-out answer, but it's a shift in mentality. I think you treat it as if it's the start of a new season. You treat it as if it's day 1, new manager, and kind of all bets are off. And by all bets are off, I mean like Mason Mount doesn't get guaranteed to start every game. He has to earn a spot like everyone else. It's got to be this shift and this hunger of a mentality change where the boys fight and people are given shots that are earned in the training grounds and then get earned on the pitch. It has to be a full buy-in. It's got to be a mentality shift sort of across the board. And without that, because the easy answer is go sign players and change tactics and change system and fire the manager, whatever. Like that's the easy stuff to point at, but I don't think it solves any problems. I don't think it like changes the core issue, which is we need to get our players to gel. We need to get our players, to care and to give a shit, to go fight for each other. That doesn't happen overnight, but it happens on the training grounds. It happens when you bond together, and I don't know what it takes, but you got to do something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple things. One, like Parks, I agree with you, and at the same time, I'm going to turn to Collins on this one. You have talked about Potter and his background, right? Which is, I believe, in sports psychology.
Yep.
If he's not able to get it done, and granted, he hasn't had a lot of time, so I'm not going, Potter out or anything like that. He's in the best position probably of any other manager who we could go out and get to right the ship from a mentality standpoint. I do think that he is the best man for the job. I don't think it's going to be easy, but he knew that coming into it. You have, anytime you go from a Brighton to a bigger club, any one of the previously known top six in the Premier League, you have higher expectations. You're asked to produce a lot more. It's not just, oh, we did really good this year. Cool. No, this is like, you have to do good every single year. You have to be in contention. I do think that he will be able to be the right man for the job and get that taken care of. The other thing that I think we need to do, and this is kind of twofold. A, we need to cut the dead weight that we currently have, whether it's Ziyech, Pulisic, Kai, like people that are not producing, specifically Ziyech. I'm the homer in me still wants Pulisic at Chelsea, just because that's probably as close as we're going to get to an American being at Chelsea. So I have to hold on to that just for my own sake. But if Kai is still driving up, transfer rumors, or if he's playing into it and looking at it, fine, send him. Right? That's what we said about Rom. You don't want to be at my club. Nobody's bigger than the club. Get the fuck out of here. I'm excited for the reinforcements that we have coming. I think we need those badly. And I think it will bring a newer energy that is going to help with Potter trying to get his message across. So I think those 2 or 3 things are going to be crucial as we go forward.
I think the overarching theme of what needs to be done is everyone's got to nut up here. And it starts with Potter. We've seen in his post-game pressers that it's like, oh, well, the boys played well today. They gave it their all. I mean, like you said, this isn't bright. This isn't like, oh, good job. This is, you're in one of the top clubs in Europe. And so he needs to be a little bit more aggressive, so to speak. But then you look at the squad as well. And I think this is the biggest change that needs to happen. Is Potter needs to have the equivalent of his summer transfer window. And I know that's hard to do in January. But this team needs to trim the dead weight. It's almost not even dead weight at this point. It's almost, I'd almost call it a series of tumors. all they're doing is rotting the rest of the team. And so cut them off. Get rid of them. But in doing that, this squad needs balance. For the last probably 5 years, the focus has been on technical ability. And that's all we have right now is technical ability. You've got players who have quote unquote flair, or, they can dribble at people, dribble around people, whatever. This team doesn't have a spine. You look at when Chelsea has been successful. You had players like Diego Costa. You had N'Golo Kante in his prime. You had Michael Ballack, as we mentioned earlier. John Terry. You had enforcers on this team. So I think going out and getting, and this is just off the top of my head, I'm not saying we should go out and get any of these players, but players similar to, like an Adama Traore, I think would be great. Just a guy to body people. A Marcos Llorente, I think would be great in defense. We're not going to get him, but Victor Osimhen from Napoli, I think would be a great choice. Just some players who, nuts are dragging on the ground kind of thing. This team is soft, and we need some enforcers in this squad. And again, Matt, I've seen your reactions to Adama Traore, and I'm just thinking players of that similar style off the top of my head, not necessarily that he should be the number one transfer target.
I don't think he should be a transfer target, but anyways, no, I agree. I agree with the overall point. And I've said this before. When Rudy left, he took the heart of the club with him. Like, you lost all of that toughness. As soon as Rudy left, that entire side of the pitch, even you could argue the entire defense, went to hell in a handbasket. He was your enforcer. Koulibaly in his first 2 matches, yeah, he looked like he could be the enforcer. Yeah. Rudy's something different, though. He understands those dark arts. He understands the shithousery that goes along with playing in that position. And he embodied a lot of what we love. And that's why we loved him, right? We loved all the antics. We loved all the facial expressions, just everything that he did. We loved it. What do we love right now about this club? As far as like, who else do we think really embodies what we would experience or what we did experience 2-3 years ago with Chelsea?
I think
it's hard to say.
Zakaria is the closest we have to it, and it's a very, 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 very small sample size. But just his build and the way he plays, it screams like this guy is physical.
Right.
And that's the kind of spine. Center back, center mid, striker. That's what we need.
Right. And I don't want to take anything away from Thiago Silva. We all know his pedigree. I kind of keep him where he is and leave him out of that. He's not your physical bruiser like Rudy was, but he is your leader. But like, you need somebody that can just go in, and people are afraid to even go near on the defensive side of the ball. We don't have that right now. We just don't. Koulibaly, again, he's getting up there in age. He's what, 30, 29, 30, something like that. And again, like, it's going to take him time to get there. Rudy is just Rudy. He doesn't split hairs. Like, he is who he is. But we just don't have, again, Colin, to your point, we don't have that backbone. We're all about finesse and flair, and no, like, score a damn goal. Be strong defensively. We're not asking for worldies every single game. Like, that's not what we're about. We're about doing your job, right? The Patriot way. Do your job. Right now, there are not a lot of people doing their job.
I've had some time now to, in the last minute or so to think of some better options that you guys may like. Lavia from Southampton, bruiser in the midfield. Moises Caicedo, he's got the Brighton connection, but he's another guy who's just not afraid to go into challenges. And that's absolutely what we need, especially in that midfield.
Yeah, and I think with Carney, when he kind of gets more of a chance, comes into his own, I think he can do that too. Like I think he's a better, younger version of RLC. And if he can use his body the way that you've seen RLC do it at times, if he can do that, earlier in his career, he's going to be extremely successful. So like I said, the combination of even if you run Kova, Zakaria, and Chumbawamba, like, it's still going to be a solid midfield, and you're probably going to dominate a lot of that midfield.
All right, well, let's close it out today with, as we usually do, our man of the match and man of get the fuck out of here. We only ran polls for the Zagreb match because, as mentioned earlier, we were not all present for the Arsenal match. So that one will be a little bit more freestyle. So you can always check out our polls after all matches going forward on Twitter at @flagdownpod. I'll start with our man of the match. So our best performances in these two matches.
Mason, right at the heart of that, man of the match. How good a Chelsea performance was it?
Yeah, I'm quite surprised I got man of the match, to be fair.
Against Zagreb, we had Zakaria, Mount, Sterling, Chilwell, and one write-in vote for Jorginho. We got
Matt, you wrote in Jorginho? How sweet of you.
I thought that was your burner account.
I plead the fifth.
Yeah, so I'll let you guys take most of this, but I didn't see much of the match, so I'll go with the fan pick, which seemed to have been Zakaria, but I'll let you guys talk more about it.
Collins?
I agree, and for all the points we made earlier about him, I think that he just bossed that game and scored a goal on top of it. So for me, he was man of the match.
Yeah, I would agree. For me, Denis had a very, very good debut. Collins, according to your holy Bible of whoscored.com, Jorginho was a 7-2, which that's where I would expect him to be for most games. So to me, that's not really an outstanding performance. But I think Denis definitely had the better match of anybody. Chills, I thought, played well, but again, he kind of picked up that injury, and that was a tough one. So yeah, Denis for me.
For a guy who bashes whoscored.com, you sure check that a lot more than I do.
I only do that just to shit on you and to make Parker smile, because I know his hatred of it.
Let's turn to the Arsenal match. Again, we did not run a poll for that match, but do you guys even have a man of the match for that game?
Yeah, I do. And you guys were talking about it a little bit before with just about Rudy, and this guy doesn't fit the Rudy build or the Rudy physicality, but he was the only dude out there that looked like he gave a damn. And that was Azpilicueta. He isn't the Dave of young. He doesn't have as much to give on a week-to-week basis. He's lost a step, sure. But man, he cares about the team. And I felt passion out of him. I felt like he tried. I felt like he cared. And I didn't get that from everybody. In fact, I got that from almost nobody in the match. So because of that, just sheer effort and grit alone, Dave wins it for me.
My vote for man of the match is going to be Sleep. That would be my winner. But no, I agree. Again, I didn't watch the match, but everything that I've seen and from like highlights and just kind of read about, yeah, for me it's Dave. You know, when you have a shit match, you turn to your old dog, right? You turn to the veteran, and it sounded like he was the only person that actually gave two shits that entire time. So yeah, for me it's Dave.
Mine is going to be, we'll go Mobtoberfest.
Oh boy.
It allowed me to not watch the game, which I appreciate. So for that, Mobcraft wins man of the match.
Yeah. Sick.
Yep.
Shameless plug.
Shameless plug, but a very accurate plug.
All right, well, let's turn to the worst part of both matches, our infamous Man of the Get the Fuck Out of Here award.
Shut your fucking mouth, you'll do nothing. You'll do fucking nothing. Not one of you will do nothing. Get the fuck out of here.
We'll start in the Zagreb match. I'll give three options: conceding the early goal, Chilwell's injury, or playing the first team. Matt, we'll start with you.
Chilwell's injury. That's the last thing we needed, was another fucking injury. And
especially for him, man.
Right. Especially for him, and the fact that, you know, his last two injuries came at times where he was playing well. I mean, he wasn't the Chilwell before his ACL. He wasn't scoring, you know, worldies every single week, but he was, you know, he got, in some people's mind, he got his spot back. I still always thought that it was his spot until he was kind of working his way back and everything like that. It just sucks. And, you know, my heart goes out for him, but I think for me, Chills.
Yeah, the other two options are temporary, and the Chills one is much more permanent. It's a big loss for us, not just in the match, but going forward, and how we structure our team, how we think about the team and players and their rotations. We're gonna miss Chills, and yeah, it's a pretty easy one for me. A somber Benny Chills.
Let's sweep it there, boys. That's my pick as well. It means another transfer window where we're going to be focused on players who can play wing back when we have so many other issues with this team. So yeah, definitely a lot further reaching than the other two. Let's turn to the Arsenal match. Parker, we'll start with you because you got up at 6 a.m. to watch this. What was the worst part of that game for you?
And made us a delicious breakfast, might I add.
I did. To both points, I sort of wish I didn't. You know, I'll characterize it as sort of the antithesis of how I described Dave, but just the lack of effort and the lack of caring, and in a London derby, how outplayed we were against Arsenal, and an Arsenal team that's in form and good and you know, top of the league. So props to them. I'm not saying it's not deserved by them, but at home against Arsenal, you got to show out, and we did not. And it didn't look like it bothered us that we didn't. So I'm going to just say an overall lack of effort and lack of giving a shit. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, I'll kind of piggyback on that. Everybody but Dave. That's kind of the way that I look at it. I know that I has been the one getting a lot of hate after that match. And I understand why. Collins, I am looking at who scored. Aubameyang was a 5'9". And
yeah, he only had 8 touches.
Havertz was a 6'3". So Parks, I don't know how that relates to what you saw, but I again, I don't have a lot of ground to stand on when making this decision, so I kind of have to go with the general consensus. But for me, it's from everything that I understand, it is either Kai or it is just the lack of effort and care and desire in a London derby. And especially for a team over the summer that spanked us 3-0. It should have been a lot more. 4, thank you. Could have probably easily been 8. They owned us. You would think the competitor in you would want some sort of revenge for that one, because you were absolutely embarrassed. No, they were content with it. So lack of effort for me.
There's so many good options in this game. And Matt, thank you for reminding me about Aubameyang and his fucking 8 touches. That's Lukaku level shit right there. Kai Havertz, I think, is the easy one. I think he's to blame for the goal. He didn't really do anything in the attack. But my man to get the fuck out of here is the whole London is red nonsense. Like, cool, you haven't won the league since we have. Cool, you don't have any Champions League trophies. Like, London is blue and will be for a long time. So shitting on Arsenal, go home and enjoy your win. But Chelsea is forever. All right. So as I mentioned, you can check out our polls after every match on Twitter @flagdownpod. So boys, that brings us to the end of another exciting podcast. I do just want to plug next week. We're not going to release a pod after dark this week, but next week we have Connor Kaloya, who is the Chief Operating Officer of Milwaukee Pro Soccer. He's also the CEO of Forward Madison FC, as well as some minor league baseball teams here in Wisconsin. He's going to be coming on to talk about Milwaukee's newest professional soccer team playing in USL Championship in 2025. So if you have any questions that you'd like us to ask Connor, shoot us a DM on social media. Again, that's @flagdownpod, and look for that episode next week. But in the meantime, a great way where you can catch that episode is to make sure that you subscribe, rate, and review Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. And in the meantime, you can always follow us on social media. The pod itself can be followed @flagdownpod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can follow me, Andy, at Comiskey North. You can follow Parker at DJ Parkour and Matt at Matus Lee. Boys, it's been a pleasure. Hopefully next week is a little bit more of a positive podcast.
We always hope for the best.
On that note, I'm hoping for at least one youth to play, because it looks like Webster was told to not travel with the Jamaican team, and so he was looking to get called up there, and was told not to because he might get featured against City. So I'm hoping Charlie Webster gets to play and some more of the youth. And see where we've got some nuggets that we can take into the first team. They're not all going to work, but something's got to work better than what we got right now.
I think that's a perfect note to end this pod on. So cheers once again with our Mob Craft beer to the youth.
For the youth.
For the youth. For the boy.
Later, boys.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm all potted out.